Hello, my dear friends. Before you is a temple, its white marble so pure under the Aegean sun it seems to hum with a light of its own. This isn't just any temple. It's a place of business, offering a service so unique, so final, that its clients are said to achieve a kind of immortality. This is the story of a business built on the promise of forever, a story you think you know, but whose truth is buried under layers of myth and misunderstanding. It's a tale of commerce, competition, and the cold, hard reality of getting exactly what you wish for. You'll be invited inside, of course, to see the process for yourself, though it's worth noting that very few who pass through these doors ever walk back out. That's rather the point. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, imagine yourself there. Feel the gentle Mediterranean breeze on your skin, carrying the scent of salt and wild thyme. Picture the sharp, clean lines of the colonnade against a sapphire sky. This is where our story begins. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand across the sun-drenched agora from the most talked-about establishment in the city. It's not a raucous tavern or a philosopher's school. It is a temple. Technically. It's dedicated to Athena, goddess of wisdom and craft, and its facade is a masterpiece of classical perfection. But no smoke from sacrifices stains its pristine white pediment. No clamour of priests chanting hymns spills from its open doors. There is only a quiet, unnerving stillness, a sense of profound and permanent calm. This is the headquarters of the woman they call Medusa, and she is in the business of preservation. The public image, the one whispered in the market stalls and discussed in the elegant courtyards of the elite, is one of divine artistry. They say that Medusa was a priestess so devoted, so pure, that Athena herself blessed her. This blessing, the story goes, allows her to capture the very essence of a person, their beauty, their strength, their legacy, and seal it away from the ravages of time. To be preserved by Medusa is to become a work of art, a statue so lifelike it seems to breathe. It is the ultimate luxury for the city's wealthy, a final, defiant gesture against the inevitability of wrinkles, sickness, and the quiet oblivion of the grave. They call her service eternum, and it promises what every mortal secretly craves, to be remembered, perfectly and forever. You decide to approach, your sandals slapping softly on the warm paving stones. As you draw closer, the illusion of a simple, holy place begins to fray at the edges. The air grows cooler, unnaturally so, as if the marble itself leaches the heat from the day. And there's a sound, barely audible at first, that you can't quite place. It's a soft, dry, sibilant whisper. It's a sound like fine sand trickling through a narrow opening, 1,000 tiny grains at once. It seems to emanate from the temple's shadowy interior, a constant, living hiss that unsettles the profound silence. You pause at the threshold, peering inside. The glamour of the public story gives way to a shocking, clinical reality. This is no temple. This is a showroom. The grand hall is not filled with offerings and altars, but with statues. Figures of men, women, and even animals, all rendered in a strange, grey stone, all captured with an impossible, breathtaking realism. A young athlete, muscles coiled, a discus in his hand, his face a mask of supreme concentration. A noblewoman, her head tilted just so, a faint, melancholy smile playing on her lips, the intricate folds of her peplos looking as soft as real fabric. They are magnificent. They are also terrifying. There is no artist's chisel mark, no sign of human craft. They look less like they were carved from stone, and more like they simply stopped. This is the hidden truth of Eternum. Medusa's blessing is not a gentle, artistic process. It is instantaneous, irreversible, and absolute. The clients who walk in seeking eternal beauty find it, but not in the way they imagine. They are not the patrons of the art. They are the art. And the priestess herself, you see her now, at the far end of the hall, speaking with a potential client. She is tall, poised, and moves with a liquid grace. But your eyes are drawn to her head. What you assumed from a distance was an ornate headdress is something else entirely. It is a living, writhing crown of serpents, their scales catching the dim light, their forked tongues tasting the cool air. The quiet hissing you heard outside emanates from them. They are not a curse, not in this version of the story. Here, they are part of the divine apparatus of her craft, the source of her unique power. Her face is beautiful, but it's a severe, untouchable kind of beauty, framed by this hypnotizing, terrifying corona of life. She never makes direct eye contact with her clients. Instead, she looks slightly to the side, her expression one of intense, professional focus. So why would anyone willingly subject themselves to this? The why is all around you, in the very air of this ancient world. You live in a time obsessed with legacy, with Cleos, a glory that lives on after you die. But glory is fleeting. Memories fade. Wooden portraits rot, and bronze sculptures are melted down for wars. The poet's verses can be forgotten. But stone endures. In a world without photographs, without any way to perfectly capture a person's likeness, Medusa offers something radical and seductive, a perfect, one-to-one replica of you, frozen at your peak, immune to decay. She has commodified immortality. The people who come here are not simply vain. They are terrified of being forgotten. They are willing to trade the messy, unpredictable remainder of their lives for the certainty of a perfect, permanent legacy. They see the statues not as frozen people, but as successful products. As you linger in the doorway, a servant, a young woman with a practiced, neutral expression, approaches. She doesn't seem afraid of her mistress. She seems efficient. "Do you have an appointment?" she asks, her voice low and calm. Her gaze is fixed on your chest, a clear protocol to avoid any unfortunate accidents. It's all so organized, so professional. It's a business, a chillingly effective one. The priestess Medusa has turned her unique condition into the city's most exclusive and final luxury service. She has taken the thing that should have made her an outcast and monetized it, building an empire on the very human fear of being erased by time. The beautiful lie of preservation is far more palatable than the cold, hard reality of petrification, and in a city that values appearance above all else, it's a lie everyone is willing to believe. But now, you remain in the doorway, a potential customer, or perhaps just a curious observer, wondering what it must be like to make that final business transaction, to trade your warm, breathing future for a cold, silent eternity. You shake your head no, a silent gesture to the servant, and step back slightly, content to remain an observer in the shadows of the colonnade. Your attention is drawn back to the woman in consultation with Medusa. She is older, perhaps in her late 40s, but she holds herself with a ramrod straight posture that speaks of a lifetime of being looked at. This is Lyra, and you know of her, as does everyone in the city. 20 years ago, Lyra's beauty was a civic treasure. Poets compared her skin to alabaster, her eyes to the deep sea just before a storm. Her presence at a symposium guaranteed its success. Her favor could elevate a man's status overnight. She was not just beautiful, her beauty was her career, her power, her entire identity. Now, you can see the faint, spidery lines around her eyes, the slight softening of her jawline that no amount of discipline can hold back. Time, the most patient and undefeated of rivals, is finally catching up. And Lyra is not one to accept defeat. You are witnessing the ultimate business negotiation for her legacy. Medusa speaks, her voice a low, melodic murmur that doesn't quite mask the ever-present sibilance of her serpentine crown. She is not selling a product. She is offering a solution. Your likeness will not be an interpretation. Lyra, she says, her gaze fixed on a point just over Lyra's shoulder. Not a sculptor's approximation. It will be you. The exact curve of your smile, the precise way you hold your head when you are listening to a piece of music you love. That moment, that perfection, will be made eternal. It will be a testament, a lesson in beauty for 1,000 generations to come. The glamorous illusion is intoxicating. Medusa paints a picture of a future where scholars and art lovers will stand before Lyra's statue, marveling at the ideal of classical beauty. She will not be a forgotten old woman, but a permanent icon. Lyra's fear is not of death, but of irrelevance. Medusa understands this intimately. She is selling a very specific kind of immortality, one where you are not remembered, but perpetually seen. Lyra nods, her decision made. She came here with a heavy purse of gold, but she is paying with the rest of her life. The price of unfading beauty is everything. Then, the transaction moves from consultation to execution, and the clinical reality behind the poetic sales pitch is laid bare. The servant who spoke to you now moves forward with an unnerving efficiency. She guides Lyra towards the center of the room, to a large, circular platform of polished black marble that you hadn't noticed before. It's a stage. 2 more servants emerge from a side chamber. They are not burly men, but slender women, moving with the quiet competence of morticians. They begin to adjust Lyra's robes, pulling the fabric to create the most graceful, artistic folds. They arrange a stray lock of her dark hair. They are not preparing a living woman for a portrait. They are posing a body for its final display. You feel a knot tighten in your stomach. The air in the temple seems to drop another 10 degrees. The snakes on Medusa's head, which had been swaying gently, now begin to writhe with a more agitated energy. Their hissing intensifies, filling the hall, a sound like dry leaves skittering across stone. Lyra stands perfectly still, her hands clasped in front of her, her face a mask of determined serenity. She has chosen her pose, her final statement to the world. The process is immediate, Medusa says, her voice cutting through the whispering sounds. The blessing of the goddess is absolute. All that is required is that you look upon her vessel. You must meet my gaze, Lyra. This is the shocking truth, the gross-out fact hidden beneath the elegant marketing. The blessing is not a gentle gift, it is a biological process of terrifying speed. Medusa steps forward. For the first time, she lifts her head fully, and her gaze luminous, ancient, and utterly devoid of emotion moves to lock with Lyra's. For a split second, nothing happens. Lyra's serene expression remains. And then, you see it. It starts at her feet. The rich, wine-dark leather of her sandals seems to lose its colour, fading to a dusty grey. A wave of this stony pallor flashes up her legs, visible even through the fabric of her peplos. You can almost hear it, a faint, internal crackle, like a pot of water freezing solid in an instant. Lyra's eyes widen, not in pain, but in sheer, uncomprehending shock. The serenity on her face shatters, replaced by a dawning horror as the cold, rigid paralysis climbs her torso. Her mouth opens slightly, as if to scream, but no sound emerges. The muscles in her throat are already stone. The last thing to go is the light in her eyes. The deep, sea storm blue turns to a flat, opaque grey. The spark of consciousness, of fear, of Lyra herself, is extinguished. One moment, a living, breathing, terrified woman. The next, a statue. The silence that follows is more profound than before. The snakes on Medusa's head settle, their hissing fading back to a soft whisper. A faint wisp of vapour, like a chilled breath, rises from the statue's surface and vanishes into the cool air. The process is complete. Why is this not seen as murder? Why is this a legitimate, even sought after, business? You must understand the brutal economy of value in this world. For a woman like Lyra, her entire worth was external, defined by the gaze of others. As her beauty faded, she faced a slow social death, a descent into invisibility that, to her, was far more terrifying than a quick physical one. Medusa didn't kill her, she simply offered an escape from that slow, humiliating decline. Lyra chose to become a permanent, admired object rather than a decaying, ignored person. In the cold, pragmatic logic of this society, she made a sound investment, trading a depreciating the remaining years for an eternal one. The servants show no emotion. They step forward with a practiced air, checking the new statue for any imperfections, which of course there are none. One of them places a small, inscribed plaque at the base, Lyra, an ideal of beauty. The transaction is finished. The product is ready. A new masterpiece has just been added to the Eternum collection, and the business of forever moves on without pause, awaiting the next client who fears being forgotten more than they fear being turned to stone. The memory of Lyra's final, silent moment of shock hangs in the cold air, but for Medusa and her staff, it's just the end of another transaction. Business must continue. You watch, fascinated and horrified, as the next phase of the operation unfolds. The beautiful illusion of divine art gives way to the gritty, mundane reality of logistics. An empire built on turning people to stone, you realize, has some very unique overheads. The servants, their movements economical and sure, bring forward a heavy wheeled cart. It's a sturdy, unadorned thing of dark wood and bronze fittings, its platform covered with thick, felted wool to prevent chipping. With a series of stout levers and ropes, they carefully, almost reverently, tilt the statue of Lyra onto the cart. There is no ceremony now. The art has been created. This is just product delivery. You are struck by the contrast. The city's elite imagine this moment as a sacred installation, a blessed icon being moved to its place of honor. The reality is more like a warehouse fulfillment. It's heavy, awkward work. The central theme of Medusa's business, the anchor around which everything revolves, is not beauty or immortality. It is weight. The physical, unyielding, back-breaking weight of stone. Her clients come to her light and full of life, seeking to preserve a fleeting image. They leave us hundreds, sometimes thousands, of pounds of dense, grey rock. The scent of marble and money is the smell of the quarry, of stone dust, and of the sweat from the labourers who have to move these final, silent forms. You follow at a discreet distance as the cart is wheeled out of the main hall and into a large, walled courtyard behind the temple. This is the part the public never sees. It's a workspace, not a showroom. Here, the shocking reality of the enterprise is stripped of all its poetic marketing. Against one wall, you see a row of what look like sarcophagi, but they are empty, waiting. These are the custom-made shipping crates, padded and reinforced, each one built to the specific dimensions of a client. You overhear one servant telling another they'll need the hero-sized crate for Lyra, a bit of grim, workplace shorthand. Against another wall, a different kind of work is being done. A man with the brawny arms of a blacksmith is using a fine chisel and hammer, not on a statue, but on its base. He is carefully carving the client's chosen inscription. This is the only part of the process that involves a traditional artist's tool, and it's used only for the label. Another man is polishing a finished statue of a statesman, using a mixture of beeswax and olive oil to give the stone a faint, lustrous sheen. It's a trick Medusa developed to make the stone look richer, more like Parian marble than the strange, unique material it actually is. It's another layer of illusion, a practical touch to enhance the product's appeal. This is post-production. The why of this meticulous, almost industrial process is pure business acumen. Medusa understands that her service doesn't end when the client's heart stops. The aftercare, the delivery, the presentation, it's all part of the luxury package. The wealthy clientele are not just buying their own petrification, they are buying a seamless, worry-free experience for their heirs. The family doesn't want to be burdened with the complex logistics of moving a half-ton statue of their beloved grandmother. So, Aeternum handles it all. For a significant fee, of course. You see a ledger, lying open on a stone table, a breeze riffling its papyrus pages. It's filled with neat columns of figures and notes. You catch a few lines. Client, General Fallon. Weight est, 12 talents. Delivery, Acropolis overlook. Surcharge, steep terrain, ox team, X3. And another client, Lady Callista. Pose, reclining with lyre. Note, delicate fingers, requires extra padding. Rush delivery requested by heir for inheritance reasons. It's all so brutally practical. The beautiful promise of eternal life is broken down into man-hours, materials, and transportation costs. Medusa herself now emerges into the courtyard. She doesn't oversee the heavy lifting. The value is in the unique, unteachable part of the process. She walks over to the man polishing the statesman's statue. More on the folds of the himation, she advises, her voice calm and authoritative. The light in the great hall of his villa will catch it there. It must have depths. She is not just the artist, she is the CEO and the head of quality control. The snakes on her head seem calmer out here in the open air, as if they too are more at ease in the functional backstage of the business than in the tense performance space of the main hall. The most jarring detail in the courtyard is a pen in the corner, where several animals are kept, a handsome hunting dog, a magnificent eagle with a clipped wing, and a powerfully built bull. You recall the statue of the athlete in the main hall, and beside him, a statue of his favourite hound, its head cocked, ready to fetch a ball. You realize with a jolt that Aeternum offers add-ons. For an extra price, a beloved pet can be preserved alongside its owner, a final, perfect tablio of their life. The business model is disturbingly thorough. The scent of the place is a strange cocktail. The clean, mineral smell of stone dust, the oily fragrance of the wax polish, the sharp tang of animal musk from the pen, and the faint, salty sea breeze that blows over the walls. It is the smell of an unusual factory, one where the raw materials are living beings and the finished products are their perfect, silent effigies. Medusa has mastered the art of turning a terrifying divine curse into a meticulously organized, vertically integrated, and highly profitable luxury brand. From the initial consultation to the final, polished installation, every step is controlled, every detail managed. She's not just a monster from a myth, She's an entrepreneur who saw a gap in the market for permanence and filled it, one weighted, stone-cold client at a time. The cart with Lyra's statue is now being carefully loaded into its crate, ready to be dispatched to an eternity of being admired, but never again seen. The crate containing Lyra's still form is sealed, the sound of the final wooden pegs being hammered home echoing in the courtyard. It's a sound of finality, of a transaction completed. But as one product is shipped, the demand for another continues, and you find yourself wondering, where do all these clients come from? How does Medusa maintain the supply chain for a business that consumes its own customers? You begin to understand that the elegant consultations with the city's elite are only one channel of acquisition. The reality is far more complex, and in some ways, far more compassionate and predatory. You drift away from the industrious courtyard of Aeternum, your curiosity pulling you toward the parts of the city that don't gleam with polished marble. You find yourself in the narrower, more crowded streets, where the air is thick with the smells of charcoal fires, unwashed bodies and sickness. Here, in the shadow of the great Acropolis, are the homes of the ordinary, the less fortunate. This is where another, less glamorous side of Medusa's business operates. The illusion is that Aeternum is only for the powerful and the vain, a luxury for those who can afford to be immortalized at their peak. The shocking truth is that Medusa has a robust and discreet outreach program for the desperate. You follow one of her servants, not the poised, silent women from the temple, but an older man, a freedman with a gentle face and sad eyes. He carries a small, unassuming bag. He navigates the winding alleys with a quiet purpose, stopping before a modest doorway from which you can hear the sound of weeping. He knocks softly. A woman answers, her face hollowed by grief and exhaustion. "I am from Aeternum," the freedman says, his voice a soft balm. "The Lady Medusa heard of your husband's affliction. She offers her service." You peer past the doorway. On a simple cot lies a man, his body gaunt, his breath coming in ragged, painful gasps. He suffers from a wasting sickness, the kind that turns a strong man into a fragile skeleton before it finally claims him. For his family, the future holds not only the grief of his death, but the shame of his decay. In a society that prized physical perfection and strength, a wasting disease was seen as a sign of a flawed soul, a divine disfavor. The memory of the man would be tainted by the memory of his pathetic end. This is the hidden genius of Medusa's business model. She doesn't just sell beauty, she sells dignity. The freedman explains the offer. It is not free, but the price is deeply discounted, payable in installments or even in service. Medusa will preserve the man now, while he still has a shadow of his former strength, before the disease utterly erases the person he was. She offers to replace the impending, horrifying image of his death with a strong, timeless image of his life. For the family, the choice is excruciating but clear. Do they watch their loved one wither away into a memory of suffering, or do they accept this strange, cold mercy? They choose the stone. They choose to remember him whole. The why behind this business practice is a mix of shrewd marketing and a peculiar form of empathy. Medusa understands that suffering is a great motivator. The terminally ill, the permanently disfigured, the victims of horrible accidents, these are people who have had their ideal image of themselves stolen from them. Medusa offers to give it back, frozen in a perfect, permanent moment. She is not just an artist of beauty, but a restorer of lost identities. This outreach creates immense goodwill among the common people. They see Medusa not as a predator of the vain, but as a bringer of solace to the unfortunate. It's a brilliant move, framing her terrifying power as a public good. But there is a darker side to this supply chain. You see it later, near the city docks. A different kind of agent from Aeternum is at work here. He is not a gentle freedman, he is a purveyor of rumors, a man who trades in information. You watch as he speaks to a young man, a sailor, handsome and proud, but with a reckless gleam in his eye. The agent buys him a cup of wine and speaks of the glory of youth. "A body like yours," the agent says, his voice a conspiratorial whisper. "It's a crime that it should fade. The sea will take it, or age will steal it. The Lady Medusa, she can make it last forever. A monument to your prime." This is the other side of the coin, not mercy, but temptation. Medusa's agents actively recruit the vain and the short-sighted. They target young athletes, beautiful courtesans and arrogant soldiers, planting the seed of an idea. Why wait for time to ruin you? Ash in your beauty now, at its peak value. They sell the idea of Aeternum not as an end, but as a triumph. It's a proactive investment in one's own legacy. You realize with a chill that some of the statues in her collection were not desperate or dying. They were simply convinced. They were prospects, successfully converted. The supply chain of immortality, therefore, is a sophisticated, multi-pronged operation. It sources clients from the heights of the aristocracy and the depths of the city's sickbeds. It uses compassion and temptation in equal measure. Medusa has diversified her client base. The wealthy pay the premium prices that fund the entire operation. The charity cases build a firewall of public support and gratitude, shielding her from accusations of monstrosity. And the recruits, the young and the beautiful, serve as the most stunning advertisements for her service, their perfect forms standing as silent, seductive proof of the Eternum promise. You think back to the statue of the athlete with his discus in the main hall. Did he have a wasting disease? Or did an agent whisper in his ear after he won a major victory, convincing him that this single moment of glory was worth more than all the uncertain years to come? You'll never know. The origin of each statue, the story of the final choice, is a secret held only by Medusa. Her business isn't just about stone. It's about secrets. The secret terror of the sick, the secret vanity of the beautiful, the secret fear of being forgotten that unites them all. This is how she keeps the showroom full. The supply chain of Eternum is forged from the deepest and most vulnerable of human emotions. You now understand how Eternum sources its raw materials, drawing from the city's deep wells of fear and vanity. But an operation this sophisticated, with its diverse acquisition channels and complex logistics, cannot be managed by a single, reclusive artist no matter how potent her gaze. As the business grew, Medusa faced a critical bottleneck. She was the talent, the sole producer of the company's unique product. But she couldn't negotiate contracts, manage accounts, or travel to meet suppliers. She couldn't even look her own staff in the eye. To scale her enterprise, to turn her strange gift from a mere service into an empire, she needed partners she could trust implicitly. She needed family. The public face of this expanded enterprise is one of formidable, unified grace. Medusa is no longer seen as a lone priestess. She is now the centerpiece of a trinity. Her two sisters, Stheno and Uriel, have joined her, and together they present an image of perfect, harmonious power. The illusion is that of a holy sisterhood, a divine triad dedicated to the preservation of beauty and legacy. When a wealthy patron seeks a consultation now, they are often met first by Stheno, the elder sister, whose stern, quiet dignity suggests immense wisdom, or they are charmed by Uriel, the younger, whose vibrant energy and worldly knowledge make the radical proposition of petrification seem like the most logical, fashionable choice imaginable. They are the gatekeepers, the managers of the sacred space, allowing their blessed sister Medusa to remain in contemplative seclusion until the final, holy moment of creation. They are seen as the administrators of a god's will, a family chosen to be the custodians of forever. But if you could slip past the elegant consultation rooms and into the back offices of Eternum, you would see the shocking reality of this family business. Stheno and Uriel are not priestesses. They are executives. They are the sharp, unsentimental minds that have transformed Medusa's condition into a corporate powerhouse. You find Stheno not in prayer, but in a stark, windowless office, the walls lined with shelves holding scrolls and wax tablets. This is the financial heart of the empire. The ledger you saw in the courtyard, that is her domain. She is the chief financial officer. Her fear is not existential, it is the fear of an unbalanced sheet, of an unpaid debt. You watch as she reviews a new contract. Her finger, unadorned and practical, traces a line of text. It's a collections notice for the heir of a recently preserved merchant, a man whose statue now adorns the family crypt. The heir is late on the final payment for delivery and installation. Stheno's expression is hard, unreadable. To her, the stone figure of the merchant is not a treasured memory of a lost father. It is an account receivable. She dips her stylus into ink and makes a note. Seize the asset. If the heir doesn't pay, Eternum will simply repossess the statue. It will be moved from the family crypt back to Medusa's showroom and relabeled a merchant prince, to be sold to a new money client who wants to decorate his villa with an instant ancestor. The Stheno, sentiment is a liability. There is only the cold, hard weight of stone and the even colder, harder weight of gold. If Stheno is the pragmatic engine of the company, Uriel is its seductive voice. You find her in a different room, this one filled with maps of the Greek world and reports from agents in distant cities. She is the head of marketing and acquisitions. She manages the network of recruiters, the gentle freedman, and the dockside whisperer you saw before. Her desk is covered in what look like profiles. One details the failing health of a famous playwright in Corinth. Another notes the legendary vanity of a Spartan general's wife. Uriel is a student of human weakness. She identifies potential clients or targets and crafts the precise narrative needed to bring them to Eternum's door. It was her idea to offer the discounted mercy petrifications. She calculated that the cost of the procedure would be more than offset by the priceless public relations it generated. She is the master architect of the Eternum brand. Her role is one of psychological manipulation. She teaches her agents how to frame the choice. For the sick, it is a final act of dignity. For the vain, a triumph over time. For the powerful, an eternal statement of your status. She is selling a dream, and her product is the lie that makes the stone truth bearable. The fear she wields is the intimate, personal fear of each client, identified, targeted, and leveraged to close a sale. So why this structure? Why a family business of fear? Because Medusa's power is too volatile to be managed by outsiders. She is the core of the business, but she is also its greatest risk. Stheno and Uriel are not just her sisters, they are her handlers. They build a corporate and social wall around her, allowing her to function. They are immune to her gaze not through any magic of their own, but through a lifetime of practiced avoidance of communicating with their sister through reflections, of learning the precise angles of safety. They are the only ones who can manage her. In return for their loyalty and their operational genius, they have been elevated from ordinary women to positions of immense, if shadowy, power. They don't have Medusa's gift, but they have harnessed it, building a machine of logistics, finance, and marketing around it that is far more powerful and terrifying than a single woman with a deadly gaze could ever be. Together, they form a perfect, terrifying corporate entity. Medusa is the production department. Stheno is finance and logistics. Uriel is sales and marketing. They have turned a mythological curse into a vertically integrated family business, their bond making them an impenetrable front. They are no longer just three sisters. They are Eternum Inc. And their shared secret is the foundation of their growing influence. They have mastered the business of forever, but maintaining an empire built on such a monumental secret requires more than just good logistics. It requires a mastery of the narrative itself. With her sisters managing the day-to-day operations, Medusa's business is no longer just a local curiosity. It's a brand, a symbol of ultimate luxury and finality. But a brand, especially one with a product as unconventional as Eternum's, is a fragile thing. It lives and dies not on the quality of the product itself, but on the story told about it. And so, the most crucial part of the Eternum machine isn't the courtyard logistics or the financial ledgers, it's the sophisticated, pervasive, and brilliantly deceptive marketing that Uriel has perfected. You are about to witness the art of the perfect lie. The glamorous illusion is everywhere in the city, woven into the very fabric of its culture. You see it in the theatre, where a new play, privately funded by an anonymous patron, tells the heroic tale of a beautiful priestess blessed by Athena, who selflessly preserves the city's greatest heroes in gleaming, lifelike marble so they can inspire generations to come. The play conveniently omits the fact that the heroes had to be, well, present for the petrification. The story is a smash hit, and the anonymous patron, you suspect, is Uriel. You see it in the Agora, where street corner philosophers, also on the Eternum payroll, debate the nature of legacy. What is a truer life? One asks a rapt crowd. 70 years of fading memory, or an eternity as a perfect ideal. They spin the service as a profound philosophical choice, an elevation of the self, rather than a termination of it. They are selling the why directly to the public, making the unthinkable seem not only acceptable, but noble. But the most effective marketing is more subtle. You follow a wealthy couple as they browse a high-end pottery shop. The merchant shows them a new style of wine kylix. Painted on its interior is a beautiful, idealized image of Medusa, not with a crown of hissing snakes, but with her hair artfully arranged in serpentine braids. In the painting, she gently touches the shoulder of a willing youth who gazes at his own reflection in a polished shield, a single tear of joyful sacrifice rolling down his cheek. As he looks, his reflection becomes stone. It's a complete fabrication, a beautiful, sanitized depiction of the process that replaces the stark horror of direct eye contact with a poetic, indirect transformation. It's a lie, but it's a lie painted on a luxury good, and by seeing it, By drinking from the cup, the elite internalize this romantic version of the truth. The shocking reality, of course, is the cold, hard manipulation behind this campaign. You slip back into Eternum, into Uriel's office, the nerve center of this grand deception. Here, the beautiful dream is manufactured with cynical precision. On her table are sketches for that very Kylix you just saw. Uriel is making notes in the margins. Make the youth's expression more serene. One note reads, "The focus should be on his noble choice, not her power." She is directing the narrative, ensuring that Medusa is portrayed as a passive vessel of a divine gift, not the active, terrifying agent of the transformation. It's a crucial distinction. Another set of documents reveals an even more insidious marketing tactic. They are funeral orations, pre-written for Eternum's clients. When a prominent citizen is preserved, their family is provided with a beautifully written eulogy, penned by one of the city's finest poets, also on retainer. The eulogy speaks of the deceased's final, greatest act of civic devotion, of how they chose to become a permanent lesson in virtue for the polis. It gives the grieving family the exact words they need to explain their bizarre choice to the world, transforming a private, horrifying transaction into a public act of piety. Uriel doesn't just sell the product, she sells the social script that allows people to accept it. The most shocking document on her desk, however, is a list of prominent citizens who have publicly criticized Eternum. Beside each name is a series of notes, not detailing threats, but vulnerabilities. Creton the magistrate, deeply in debt to the grain merchant Lycomedes. Phaedra, the poetess, her early work bears a striking resemblance to a lesser-known poet from Miletus. Uriel doesn't silence her critics with force. She uses information. A quiet word in the right ear, a strategically leaked rumor, and a critic's reputation is suddenly under attack, their accusations against Eternum now seeming like the desperate lashing out of a compromised individual. She is engaged in a constant, silent information war to protect the brand. So, why go to such incredible, manipulative lengths? The why is rooted in the fundamental fragility of Medusa's position. The entire Eternum empire is built on a single, terrifying miracle. If the public were ever to see the process for what it is, instantaneous, biological putrefaction at the hands of a woman with snakes for hair, the illusion of divine art would shatter. Fear would replace admiration. The business would collapse overnight. Medusa would be driven from the city, not as a failed CEO, but as a monster. The perfect lie is therefore not just good marketing, it is an existential necessity. It's a beautiful, shimmering bubble of myth, poetry, and social conditioning that protects the cold, petrifying reality at its core. Uriel's work is to constantly maintain and reinforce this bubble, using every tool at her disposal: art, philosophy, social pressure, and blackmail. She has to ensure that when people look at one of Medusa's statues, they see a noble sacrifice, not a silent scream. You think of Lyra, the woman you saw preserved. The family will receive a stirring oration about her choice to enshrine her legendary beauty for all time. The story of her dawning horror will be erased, replaced by a tale of serene acceptance. The lie is so complete, so pervasive, that it becomes the new truth. The art of the perfect lie is the art of memory replacement, and Uriel is its undisputed master. She doesn't just sell her clients a stone future, she sells the entire city a history that never happened. And as you watch her work, you realize the most powerful weapon in the Eternum arsenal is not Medusa's gaze, but Uriel's whisper. The business of Eternum thrives, its public image carefully polished, its secrets fiercely guarded by the sister executives. But whilst Thinno manages the gold and Uriel manages the narrative, Medusa herself remains at the heart of the enterprise, the silent partner whose unique ability makes it all possible. You wonder what this life is like for her, the artist who can never touch her own work, the creator who lives in perpetual, dangerous isolation. What does she do when she is not on the black marble stage, fulfilling a commission? You feel a pull towards a part of the Eternum complex you haven't seen yet, a place that is not on any public or even internal map. It is Medusa's private sanctuary, her personal retreat. The illusion that her sisters project to the world is that of a piously secluded priestess, spending her off hours in quiet contemplation and prayer to Athena, thanking the goddess for her blessing. She is imagined to be serene, otherworldly, dwelling in a state of holy communion, her mind on higher things than the crass details of the business that bears her name. She is the soul of the company, pure and untouched by its more worldly concerns. Your journey takes you through a simple, unadorned stone door at the back of Medusa's personal quarters. It leads not into a prayer chamber, but out into the open air, into a vast, high-walled garden that no one but she ever enters. And here, the shocking reality of her private life is laid bare. This is no garden of flowers and olive trees. It is a curated gallery of the lost. It is her personal collection. All around you, scattered among suppressed trees and overgrown thickets of wild thyme, are statues, dozens of them. These are not the commissioned works that stand in the villas of the wealthy or the public squares of the city. These are different. They are more personal, more candid. There is a young boy, no older than 10, his arm outstretched, a bird just taking flight from his stone fingers. There is an old woman, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, caught in a moment of hearty, unrestrained laughter, her eyes crinkling at the corners. There is a soldier, not posing heroically, but slumped against a rock, his head in his hands, the picture of exhaustion and despair. This is Medusa's portfolio, her private sketchbook, her burden. These are the people she chose. They were not clients. They were moments, captured without consultation or contract. You realize with a sickening lurch what this place truly is. It is a garden of accidents. The bird boy, perhaps a neighbor's son who wandered into the temple grounds, chasing a lost pet, and stumbled upon her by mistake. The laughing old woman, a street vendor who made her chuckle with a coarse joke, prompting Medusa to glance up in amusement without thinking. The despairing soldier, a man who fled a battle and sought refuge in what he thought was a quiet, empty temple, only to meet her gaze in the shadows. Each figure represents a failure of control, a momentary lapse in the discipline that defines her life. Each perfect, lifelike statue is a monument to a mistake. Her blessing, as the marketing calls it, is a constant, unrelenting threat to everyone and everything around her. She cannot afford a moment of carelessness, an unguarded glance. The snakes on her head, you now see, are not just the apparatus of her craft, they are her warning system. Their hissing is a constant reminder of the danger she embodies, a sound that keeps her and others perpetually on edge. So why keep them? Why not have Sthinos groundskeepers break them up for rubble and dispose of the evidence? The why is deeply personal, a psychological truth that underpins Medusa's entire existence. She keeps them because she has to. This silent, beautiful, horrifying garden is the only place where she is not alone. These stone figures are the only companions she can ever have, the only people she can look at directly, study, and be with. She wanders through the gallery, her sandals crunching on the gravel path. She stops before the laughing woman. She can trace the lines of joy on the stone face, something she could never do with a living person. She can sit with the despairing soldier, for hours, sharing his silent vigil. This garden is both a constant, painful reminder of her curse and her only solace from it. It is her penance and her society. It is the only honest place in the entire Eternum compound. There are no lies here, no marketing spin, no ledgers or contracts. There is only the cold, unvarnished truth of what she is and what she does. The glamorous illusion of the serene priestess melts away to reveal the shocking reality of a profoundly lonely woman, haunted by the permanent, beautiful, and terrible consequences of her own nature. She is the ultimate artist, able to capture life with a perfection no sculptor could dream of, but she is also the ultimate prisoner of her own medium. Her clients see her as the giver of immortality, a divine agent of their legacy. The sisters see her as the volatile but essential core of their business. But here, in the quiet, dusty garden of her mistakes, you see the truth. She is a collector of stolen moments, a curator of accidental eternities. Each statue is a relationship she can never have, a conversation she can never finish. The weight of this silent, watchful company is the true price she pays for her power, a weight far heavier than any of the stone figures her sisters cart out to the wealthy villas of the city. You retreat from the melancholy silence of Medusa's private garden, the images of her accidental collection etched in your mind. You have seen how she manages her gift for commerce and how she copes with its personal cost. But a power so absolute, so final, is more than just a tool for art or a source of personal tragedy. In the cutthroat world of Hellenic business and politics, a power like that is inevitably going to be seen as something else, a weapon. The public image of Eternum, so carefully cultivated by Uriel, is one of peaceful, artistic endeavor. The company's narrative is about preserving beauty, not destroying enemies. It is a service, not a threat. The illusion is that Medusa's gaze is a holy instrument, used only with the consent of the client in a sacred, prearranged ritual. To suggest otherwise would be to paint Medusa as a monster, an assassin, and to shatter the brand's carefully constructed reputation for pious serenity. The business thrives on the perception that it is above the petty, often violent, rivalries of the marketplace. But as you linger in the shadows of the Aeternum courtyard, you witness an event that rips this illusion to shreds. A man is ushered in, not through the grand front entrance like a client, but through a discreet side gate, hustled along by two of Stheno's grim-faced employees. He is a shipping magnate from a rival city-state, a man named Demetrios. You recognize him from the marketplace gossip. His fleet of triumphs has been undercutting the prices of Athenian merchants for months, siphoning off a lucrative grain contract and threatening the fortunes of some of Aeternum's most powerful patrons. Demetrios is not here for a consultation. He is agitated, protesting, demanding to know why he has been summoned. He is not led to the black marble platform. He is brought to Stheno's windowless office. She sits behind her desk, her face as impassive as granite. "Demetrios," she says, her voice flat, "your business practices have become inconvenient." He begins to bluster, to threaten, but Stheno simply holds up a hand, silencing him. "My sister Uriel has discovered a number of irregularities in your ledgers. It seems you have been short-changing the temple of Poseidon on your tithes for years. A deeply impious man. This is the shocking reality. Aeternum doesn't just use information to defend itself, it uses it to attack. Uriel's network of spies doesn't just identify potential clients, it digs up dirt on business rivals. Demetrios is being given a choice, though it is not framed as such. Stheno slides a contract across the desk. It's not a commission for his own preservation. It's a bill of sale, transferring ownership of his entire shipping fleet to a holding company secretly controlled by Aeternum. Demetrios laughs, a harsh, incredulous sound. "You're mad." He spits. "I'll never sign this." Stheno doesn't argue. She simply makes a small, almost imperceptible gesture to the guards. They force Demetrios to his feet and drag him from the office. Not out of the compound, but deeper inside. They take him to a specific, pre-chosen spot in the large, echoing warehouse where the shipping crates are stored. And then, another door opens, a door that is always kept locked. Medusa steps through. She is not poised for a ceremony. Her expression is not one of artistic focus. It is cold, weary, and resolute. Her eyes find the terrified gaze of the shipping magnate. The process is brutally quick. No posing, no soft fabrics arranged for effect. Just a gasp, a flash of grey, and silence. Demetrios, the powerful business rival, is now a statue. A statue captured in a moment of pure, panicked rage. It is not a work of art. It is a trophy, a warning. So why this terrifying escalation? Why risk everything by turning their unique service into an instrument of corporate warfare? The why is simple, brutal, and as old as commerce itself, market domination. As Aeternum's influence grew, it began to attract not just clients, but enemies. Competitors who couldn't match their unique product resorted to other tactics, price wars, political maneuvering, and whispered campaigns of slander. At first, Uriel's propaganda and Stheno's financial pressure were enough to keep them at bay. But as the stakes grew higher, the sisters made a cold calculation. The most efficient way to eliminate a rival is to literally eliminate them. They have weaponized Medusa's gaze. It has become the ultimate tool for hostile takeovers. This is Aeternum's most closely guarded secret, known only to the three sisters and a handful of their most trusted and terrified staff. They don't do it often. It's too risky. But for a rival as significant as Demetrios, they make an exception. His disappearance will be a mystery. People will assume he was lost at sea or met with foul play in a dark alley. No one would ever suspect the truth. The statue of Demetrios will not be displayed. It will not be sold. It will be moved, under the cover of darkness, to another of Medusa's secret collections, not the Garden of Accidents, but a different, colder place, a subterranean vault, a gallery of frozen enemies. There stand a handful of other figures, a politician who tried to levy a divine gift tax on their profits, a sculptor who publicly claimed he could replicate Medusa's work and was getting a little too close to the truth, a priest from a rival temple who denounced Aeternum as blasphemy. This is Medusa's true burden. Not just the accidents, but the executions. She is the weapon, but her sisters aim it. She has become the enforcer for their corporate ambitions. You see it in her eyes as she turns away from the newly made statue of Demetrios. There is no triumph, no satisfaction. There is only a profound, soul-crushing weariness. The glamour of the artist priestess is a distant memory, replaced by the grim reality of being the living, breathing, hissing apparatus of her family's ruthless ambition. She has preserved beauty and dignity. She has immortalized heroes and loved ones. And now she has also created a silent, stone monument to greed and fear, a testament to the fact that in the end, the most powerful force in the world isn't art or myth, but the cold, hard calculus of profit and loss. The secret vault of frozen enemies grows, a silent testament to Eternum's ruthless efficiency. The business is more successful than ever. Its profits are immense, its influence spreading like dye in water, quietly coloring the city's politics and economy. The sisters have created a perfectly balanced machine of terror and beauty. But such a potent, and frankly bizarre, enterprise does not go unnoticed by the powers that are meant to govern the affairs of mortals. The success of Eternum has reached the ears of the gods. Specifically, the one to whom Medusa's temple is supposedly dedicated, Athena. The glamorous illusion is that Athena must be proud. After all, Medusa is her priestess. The Eternum marketing, crafted by Uriel, consistently frames Medusa's gift as a blessing from the goddess of wisdom and craft herself. Every statue is a tribute to Athena's divine patronage. The official story is one of a harmonious relationship between goddess and mortal, a partnership that elevates the city and brings glory to Olympus. The public believes that Athena looks down upon the temple of Eternum and smiles, pleased with the beautiful, permanent works of art being created in her name. It's a holy franchise, with the goddess as the silent, approving franchiser. But you, with your ability to see past the veil, are drawn upwards, your perspective shifting from the mortal streets to the gleaming halls of Mount Olympus, and the reality you find there is shockingly different. There is no pride in Athena's heart. There is only a growing, corrosive envy. Athena is not a benevolent patron goddess. She is a deeply offended artist. You see her in her celestial workshop, surrounded by her own creations. Here is the loom where she wove a tapestry so perfect it drove her rival Aegean to despair. Here are the designs for the Parthenon, the most flawless building ever conceived. Athena's entire identity is built on being the undisputed master of craft, wisdom, and artistry. Her works are perfect, rational, created through immense skill and intellect. And now, this mortal priestess, this Medusa, is creating works that rival her own. The shocking truth is that Athena sees Medusa not as a servant, but as a competitor. The statues of Eternum possess a quality that even she, a goddess, cannot replicate: perfect, instantaneous realism. Her finest sculptors can spend a year coaxing a likeness from marble, but it is always an interpretation, an approximation. Medusa's work is not an approximation, it is a conversion. It is life captured whole, without the intermediary of a chisel or a fallible human hand. It is a new, and in Athena's view, a deeply unsettling, form of art. She examines the prayers that come from Medusa's temple, which are, in fact, just Uriel's carefully worded press releases. She hears the whispers of mortals praising the divine realism of Medusa's work, and she seethes. The praise that should be hers is being redirected to her priestess. The statues are not seen as tributes to Athena, they are seen as masterpieces by Medusa. She does not even use her hands. You hear Athena mutter to herself, her voice a low, dangerous rumble. There is no skill, no long hours of practice, no intellectual struggle. It is a trick, a biological vulgarity. She sees Medusa's gift not as a divine blessing, but as a form of cheating. It bypasses the entire process of artistry, struggle, the craft, the wisdom that Athena herself embodies. So why does this divine envy manifest? The why is rooted in the very nature of the Greek gods. They are not serene, all-knowing beings. They are powerful, immortal, and deeply, recognizably human in their vanities and insecurities. They demand respect, honor, and above all, recognition of their supremacy in their chosen fields. Apollo will not suffer a musical rival. Artemis will not suffer a rival hunter. And Athena, the goddess of craft, will not suffer a mortal who is hailed as a greater artist than herself. The success of Eternum is a direct affront to her divine ego. She is particularly galled by the marketing. Uriel's brilliant campaign to frame the gift as a blessing from Athena has backfired on a celestial level. By constantly associating Athena's name with Medusa's work, Uriel has inadvertently forced the goddess into a partnership she never agreed to. Athena is now linked in the mortal mind with a form of art she finds cheap and offensive. The fame and credit are going to the wrong person. You see her gaze drift down to the mortal world, to the bustling courtyard of Eternum. She sees Stheno directing the shipment of a new statue. She sees Uriel dispatching an agent to recruit a handsome but foolish young athlete. And she sees Medusa, a beautiful, tragic, and, in Athena's eyes, insufferably arrogant mortal who has stolen her artistic fire. The myth, you know, is that Athena cursed Medusa for being defiled in her temple. But the truth you see now is far more petty and far more believable. There was no defilement. There was no broken vow of celibacy. The curse was not a punishment. It was sabotage. Athena did not give Medusa her petrifying gaze as a blessing. She inflicted it upon her, believing it would make her a hideous outcast, a monster. She gave her snakes for hair and a deadly stare, intending to ruin her. But she underestimated mortal ingenuity, the sheer, stubborn power of entrepreneurship. The sisters took this curse, this supposed instrument of their ruin, and they rebranded it, they monetized it. They turned it into the most successful and innovative art-based business in the world. Athena's curse failed. It didn't create a monster, it created a rival. And now, the goddess Envy has curdled into a cold, divine fury. She cannot abide this mortal success story built upon her own failed attempt at revenge. She cannot let this stand. The greatest threat to Eternum is not a business competitor or a political enemy. It is the company's own supposed patron goddess, who is now plotting not just a hostile takeover, but a complete and total liquidation. The envy of a goddess is a dangerous thing, and it is about to bring a whole new level of hostile actor to Eternum's door. Athena's divine rage simmers on Olympus, a celestial storm waiting to break. But the goddess of wisdom is also the goddess of strategy. A direct, Thunderbolt-style intervention is too crude, too obvious. It would confirm her pettiness. She needs to crush Eternum using mortal hands, to orchestrate its downfall in a way that seems natural, even righteous. The first move is not one of force, but of narrative warfare. She will fight Uriel's perfect lie with a monstrous truth of her own making. Down in the city, the business of Eternum continues, oblivious to the divine plot against it. The brand is at its zenith. The illusion is one of untouchable prestige. To be preserved by Medusa is the ultimate status symbol, a sign that you have transcended the mundane concerns of mortal life. The temple is a place of serene, if slightly intimidating, beauty. The sisters are seen as powerful, enigmatic, but ultimately benevolent figures, the facilitators of a unique artistic and spiritual service. The public narrative is firmly under Uriel's control. But then, you start to notice a subtle shift. The whispers in the marketplace begin to change. Before, they were whispers of awe and aspiration. Now, they are tinged with fear. The change is slow at first, almost unnoticeable. It starts with the competitors that Stheno and Medusa have eliminated. The families of men like Demetrios, the shipping magnate, don't know he's a statue in a secret vault. They only know he vanished after having business dealings with the sisters of Eternum. They start to talk. He went to see them, they say, and was never seen again. This is where the shocking reality of Athena's strategy begins. The goddess is an amplifier of inconvenient truths. She takes the seeds of doubt and fear that were already present, the natural unease around such a strange business, and she nurtures them. She sends nightmares to the wives of Eternum's clients, dreams filled with images of their husbands trapped alive inside cold stone, their minds aware and screaming. She whispers in the ears of disgruntled former employees, sacked for minor infractions, encouraging them to embellish their stories. I saw things in there. One fired groundskeeper now claims in a tavern, his tale growing more elaborate with each cup of wine. Cheese. Bones. It's not a temple. It's a slaughterhouse. Athena's divine influence turns rumor into certainty. The narrative begins to flip. The word preserve is slowly replaced by disappear. The serene temple is rebranded as a lair. The elegant, reserved Medusa, once the gifted artist, is now painted as a monster, The hissing snakes on her head, once seen as a curious sign of her divine connection, are now described as venomous abominations, symbols of her horrific nature. The perfect lie that Uriel built is being systematically dismantled and replaced with a perfect nightmare. Uriel, the master manipulator, finds herself outmaneuvered. The usual tools paid poets, sponsored philosophers, quiet blackmailer useless against this rising tide of populist terror. How can you blackmail a goddess? How can you reason with a nightmare? She scrambles to contain the damage, issuing statements of reassurance, arranging for testimonials from satisfied families. But her efforts are like trying to put out a forest fire with a teacup. The new story is simply more compelling. It's more dramatic, more terrifying, and it feeds a primal human need to identify and cast out the monstrous. The why behind this successful smear campaign is that Athena is not just inventing lies, she is twisting the truth. This is what makes her strategy so brilliant and so devastating. Aeternum does have secret vaults. Medusa does turn people to stone against their will sometimes. The business is ruthless. Athena takes these shocking realities, which were the hidden foundation of the company's success, and exposes them, but stripped of their business context. The elimination of a corporate rival becomes a tale of a bloodthirsty monster luring innocent travelers to their doom. The mercy killing of a terminally ill man becomes the story of a predator who feeds on the weak. You witness the culmination of this campaign one afternoon in the Agora. The charismatic, wild-eyed prophet, a man nobody had heard of a month ago, but who now commands a huge crowd, stands on a cart and points a trembling finger towards the Temple of Aeternum. "Do you see that place?" He roars, his voice amplified by a subtle, divine resonance. "You think it is a house of art? I tell you, it is a nest of gorgons. A monster lives there, a creature with a serpent's hair and a gaze of death. She and her twisted sisters lure the unsuspecting inside, and their victims become the silent, screaming statues that decorate their den of evil." The crowd gasps. The word he uses, gorgon, is an old one, a Bohemian term for a mythical female monster. Athena has reached into the depths of folklore and attached this terrifying label to Medusa. She has successfully rebranded her. Medusa the CEO is gone. Medusa the artist is gone. In their place is Medusa the Gorgon, a creature of pure myth and terror. The sisters are now trapped. They are prisoners in their own temple, the business grinding to a halt. No new clients dare to approach. Supply shipments are turned away at the city gates. The family that was once the city's most exclusive luxury brand is now its most feared pariah. Athena's narrative has won. She has destroyed the business without laying a finger on it. She has turned public opinion, their greatest asset, into her most effective weapon. The Temple of Aeternum, once a symbol of sleek, modern commerce, now feels ancient and besieged. The cool, professional silence has been replaced by a tense, fearful one. The whispers of the snakes on Medusa's head sound less like a quirk of her gift and more like the sound of a cornered animal. Athena has set the stage. She has created the monster. Now, all the world needs is a hero to come and slay it. The city is now a pressure cooker of fear and suspicion, with the Temple of Aeternum at its heart. The business is paralyzed. The flow of clients has dried up, and the once respectful servants now eye the sisters with a new, wary expression. The monstrous narrative crafted by Athena has taken root, and the family is isolated, besieged by the very public they once so masterfully manipulated. It is in this moment of supreme vulnerability that they receive a visitor. This is not a client seeking immortality, nor a mob brandishing torches. This is a quiet, clandestine arrival that will plunge the business into its most dangerous transaction yet. The visitor is a high-ranking courtier, arriving under the cloak of deepest night. He represents Polydectes, the king of the island of Seriphos, a powerful and notoriously paranoid ruler. The illusion presented is one of desperation and royal plea. The courtier speaks of the king's beloved brother, Danaos, who has been unjustly accused of treason by a rival faction within the court. The king fears for his brother's life. The courtier whispers to Stheno and Uriel in the now dusty consultation room. He cannot openly protect him without appearing weak. He begs you to use your unique artistry. Preserve Danaos. Keep him safe in your famous gallery until this political storm passes. He will be a guest, not a prisoner. A living treasure held in stasis. The offer is framed as a sacred trust, a secret commission from a desperate king seeking to save his family. Polydectes offers an astronomical sum of gold, enough to solve the financial crisis brought on by Athena's smear campaign. He is offering them a lifeline, a way to leverage their controversial gift in the service of a noble and powerful ruler. It's a chance to regain relevance, to re-ally themselves with power in a time of great peril. But you, watching from the shadows, see the shocking reality behind this royal request. You see the truth of the situation back on the island of Seriphos. King Polydectes is not trying to save his brother. He is trying to eliminate him. Danaos is not the victim of a conspiracy, he is the leader of it. He is wildly popular with the army and the common people, and Polydectes knows, with the cold certainty of a threatened autocrat, that his brother is planning a coup. The king cannot simply execute his brother. Danaos is too beloved, and it would trigger a civil war. He needs him to disappear. Silently. Permanently. Without a body to martyr. Aeternum, with its monstrous new reputation, is the perfect tool for this disposal. The king's commission is not an act of fraternal love, it is a meticulously planned political assassination, outsourced to the infamous Gorgons. The huge payment is not a fee for safekeeping, it is hush money. Polydectes is hiring Medusa not as an artist, but as the world's most exotic and untraceable contract killer. He is exploiting her new, monstrous reputation for his own political gain. The sisters are caught in a terrible dilemma. Uriel, the master of reading intent, suspects the deception. This feels wrong, she murmurs to Stheno after the courtier has laid out the offer. Why not just send his brother into exile? But Stheno, the pragmatist, sees only the numbers. Their coffers are nearly empty. Their staff is on the verge of deserting them. The king's gold is not just a lifeline, it's the only lifeline. What choice do we have? She counters, her voice hard. We are already seen as monsters. Let us be paid as monsters. This is the why of their decision. They are trapped by the very narrative Athena created. Having been branded as villains, their only path to survival is to embrace the role. The king's offer is a devil's bargain, but it's the only bargain on the table. They agree. They will take the king's brother and the king's gold, knowing, deep down, that they are transitioning from the business of preservation to the grim work of state-sanctioned murder. They are no longer just eliminating business rivals in secret. They are now instruments of state terror. The plan is laid. Danaos will be lured to the city under some pretext, seized by the king's secret agents, and delivered to Aeternum. Medusa will do what she does. The statue will be kept in the deepest, most secure vault, a political prisoner frozen for eternity. The world will be told that Danaos, racked with guilt over his treasonous plots, took his own life and vanished. Medusa is brought into the decision. She listens to her sisters, her face unreadable behind the veil she has now taken to wearing even within the temple walls. When they are finished, she gives a single, weary nod. The weariness you saw after she eliminated Demetrios has now deepened into a profound resignation. She has been a priestess, an artist, a CEO, and an enforcer. Now, she is to be a king's secret executioner. Each step has taken her further from the light, further into the monstrous role the world has assigned her. She walks to her private garden, the gallery of her mistakes. She looks at the laughing woman, the bird boy, the despairing soldier. These were accidents, tragedies of circumstance. What she is about to do to Danaos is different. It is a conscious, calculated act of destruction for political convenience. It feels like the final corruption of her gift, the point of no return. The deal with King Polydectes represents the ultimate degradation of the Aeternum brand. The company that began with a lofty, if deceptive, promise of eternal beauty is now trafficking in political disappearances. They have fallen from grace and landed in the grubby, violent world of espionage and power politics. They accept the commission not for glory or art, but for sheer, desperate survival, unaware that this secret deal is not a lifeline, but the final, carefully laid out plank of a trap designed by a vengeful goddess and a cunning king. The deal is struck. The king's gold arrives in heavy, unmarked chests, a silent down payment on a brother's life. Zeno secretes it away, the weight of it a temporary comfort against the crushing weight of their predicament. Uriel begins the grim work of planning the logistics for receiving and concealing a political prisoner. Medusa waits, a weapon being sharpened for a single, terrible use. The sisters believe they are making a savvy, if morally bankrupt, move to survive. They see King Polydectes as a new, powerful client. They are wrong. He is not their client, he is their destroyer's instrument. The heroic illusion, the one that will be sung by poets for centuries, is about to begin. It is the story of Perseus, the valiant son of Zeus, a hero on a divine quest. The tale goes that King Polydectes, desiring Perseus' mother Dana, sends the young hero on an impossible mission to bring him the head of the Gorgon Medusa. The king expects Perseus to fail and die, leaving him free to pursue Dana. But Perseus, aided by the gods Athena and Hermes, bravely accepts the challenge. He is a noble hero, embarking on a righteous quest to slay a hideous monster and save his mother from the clutches of a tyrant. But you are privy to the backroom deals and the divine machinations. You see the shocking reality. Perseus is not a noble hero on a divine quest. He is a corporate raider. The scene shifts back to the court of Polydectes. The king is not just a paranoid ruler, he is a shrewd businessman, and he has been in secret communication with Athena. The goddess has found her mortal champion. But her pitch to Perseus is not about glory or saving his mother. It's a business proposition. Athena, in disguise as a wise old advisor, lays out the situation for the ambitious young man. The monster Medusa and her sisters, the goddess explains, her voice a dry whisper, are sitting on a fortune, an enterprise of immense value. Their assets are considerable. She describes the Eternum compound, the land it sits on, the treasury filled with the payments of a decade of elite clients, and most valuable of all, the unique product itself. Her power, Athena continues, is a resource, a strategic asset. In the right hands, it could be useful. Perseus is not some wide-eyed farm boy. He is a demigod with a demigod's sense of entitlement and a sharp eye for the main chance. He understands immediately. This is not a monster hunt. This is a hostile takeover. King Polydectes wants his brother Danaus eliminated, and Athena wants the Eternum business dismantled and its assets seized. They are hiring Perseus to be their liquidator. His reward is not just the glory of a hero's quest. It's a hefty share of the spoils. Polydectes promises him land and titles. Athena promises him her divine favor, a valuable commodity, and, more importantly, the tools for the job. These are not gifts. They are capital investments. The winged sandals of Hermes are for rapid, discreet travel, allowing him to bypass border patrols. The cap of invisibility from Hades is for corporate espionage, letting him infiltrate the Eternum compound and assess its defenses. The sharp adamantine sickle is for the liquidation itself. And the mirrored shield that is the master stroke. It is not just a defensive tool. It is the key to seizing the primary asset, Medusa's power. The why of this entire setup is a convergence of interests, a perfect storm of divine vengeance and mortal greed. Athena gets her revenge, destroying the mortal who dared to rival her artistry and whose curse-turned-blessing became an infuriating success. Polydectes gets rid of his political rival, with the added bonus of having the blame fall on a monster who will be conveniently dead. And Perseus, the ambitious up-and-comer, gets to make a name for himself and acquire immense wealth and power in a single, audacious move. He's not a hero, he's a highly motivated contractor executing a plan drawn up by his powerful backers. The story of the quest for the Gorgon's head is just that. A story. It's the cover story, the spin that will be released after the fact to justify the violent corporate raid. It's Uriel's own tactics turned back against her on a grand, mythological scale. You watch as Perseus prepares. He is not training to fight a monster in epic combat. He is being briefed like a special forces operative. He studies layouts of the Eternum temple provided by Athena's spies. He learns the routines of the skeletal staff that remains. He is not preparing for a battle of strength, but an operation of stealth, infiltration, and assassination. The commission to preserve the king's brother Danaus was the final piece of the trap. It ensured the sisters would be distracted, their focus on the secret arrival of their high-value prisoner. It also justified Perseus's presence. He would not just be attacking a business, he would be liberating the king's beloved brother from the clutches of the foul Gorgons. It provides him with the perfect casus belli, so as Perseus flies towards the city, cloaked in divine aid, he is not thinking of the god's glory or his mother's honor. He is thinking of his payout. He is a young, ruthless opportunist on the verge of the deal of a lifetime. He is coming to strip Eternum down to its component parts, to seize its assets, and to neutralize its CEO. The myth will speak of heroism. The reality is just business, conducted by other, more violent means. Perseus arrives, not with a hero's fanfare, but as a shadow, the whisper of his winged sandals lost in the night wind. He lands on the roof of the Eternum temple, a silent predator overlooking his target. The heroic tale would have you believe he storms the gates, shield flashing, a righteous warrior confronting evil. The reality is far more tense, a deadly game of cat and mouse inside a failing business. He is not here for a simple battle, he is here for a negotiation, where the terms are absolute and the stakes are life and death. Using the cap of invisibility, a gift from his divine backer, Perseus slips into the compound. He moves with a chilling efficiency, a corporate raider performing his due diligence. He bypasses the few remaining guards, notes the locations of the sisters' quarters and surveys the general state of decay. The once pristine showroom is coated in a thin layer of dust. The air of quiet competence has been replaced by one of neglect and fear. He sees the business is on its knees, ripe for the final push. He finds Stheno in her office, asleep at her desk, her head resting on a ledger filled with red ink. He sees Uriel pacing anxiously in her own chambers, the marketing genius out of brilliant ideas. He confirms their vulnerability. Then, he seeks his primary target, Medusa. He finds her where you have seen her before, in her private garden, the curated gallery of her accidental victims. She is not sleeping. She sits on a stone bench, her back to him, her posture one of profound exhaustion. The snakes on her head are listless, their usual energetic hissing reduced to a soft, mournful sigh. Perseus, still invisible, stands in the doorway, observing. This is the moment of confrontation. The illusion of the myth is a straightforward fight. The monster attacks, the hero defends, using the polished shield to avoid her petrifying gaze, and then, in a flash of valor, strikes off her head. It is a physical contest, a battle of reflexes and steel. The shocking reality is that it is a psychological duel, a final, bitter negotiation. Perseus takes off the cap of invisibility. He becomes visible. But he does not charge. He stands his ground, holding the polished bronze shield up, not as a defense, but as a mirror. It is his primary negotiating tool. Medusa senses his presence and turns. She sees not a man, but her own reflection in the gleaming shield. Her face, framed by the sorrowful serpents, is weary, beautiful and tragic. She does not lunge. She does not scream. She simply looks at her own image, held before her by this strange, silent intruder. "They sent you to kill me," she says, her voice not a monster's hiss, but a low, melodic statement of fact. "They sent me to liquidate an asset." Perseus replies, his voice steady, businesslike. He keeps the shield perfectly angled, a barrier of reflected reality between them. King Polydectes wants his brother back. Athena wants her temple back. And I am here to facilitate the transfer. This is not a hero confronting a monster. It is an order to delivering the final notice. Medusa looks past the shield, her gaze carefully averted from his face, studying the man himself. He is young, strong, armed with the finest divine equipment. She understands he is not some random adventurer. He is a professional. "My sisters?" she asks. "They will be allowed to live," Perseus says, the offer pre-approved by Athena, "in exile, in poverty. That is the offer. This is the why of the negotiation. It's not about honor, it's about efficiency. A battle would be noisy, messy. It could go wrong. A negotiated surrender is cleaner. Perseus is offering her a deal, her life for the company. But of course, it's a lie. He has no intention of letting her live. He just needs her to be still. Medusa considers the terms. She looks around at her garden of stone memories, the boy with the bird, the laughing woman, her mistakes, her companions. She thinks of her sisters, of the empire they built from her curse, an empire that has now crumbled into this desperate, final moment. She has been a tool for her sisters' ambition, a weapon for their security, an executioner for a king's paranoia. She is tired. The constant vigilance, the loneliness, the weight of the stone she has created, it has all become too much. "And if I refuse?" she asks, a flicker of her old fire in her eyes. Then the negotiation ends. Perseus says simply, his grip tightening on the adamantine sickle at his belt. "And I will take what I came for anyway." He adjusts the shield, forcing her to look more closely at her own face. "Look," he says, his voice pressing. "Look at what you are." Athena was right. It's a vulgar trick. There's no art in it. Just a freak of biology. Your business was a fluke. It's over. His words are cruel, calculated, designed to break her spirit. He is using psychological warfare, not just a mirrored shield. He is devaluing her life's work, framing her as a failure, a cheap gimmick that has run its course. For a moment, her anger rises. The snakes on her head begin to hiss and writhe. Sensing her rage, she could lunge, try to knock the shield aside, force him to meet her gaze. But then, she sees the reflection of her own eyes in the polished bronze. She sees the wariness, the sorrow, and she makes a final business decision. She chooses to accept the terms of her own destruction. Perhaps it is exhaustion. Perhaps it is a final, defiant act of control in a life that has been defined by a lack of it. She will not give him the satisfaction of a fight. She lets her shoulders slump, a gesture of surrender. The snakes quieten. "Very well," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "Tell my sisters." She never finishes the sentence. In the moment of her surrender, her guard drops. She looks down, away from the shield. And in that instant, Perseus moves. He is not a hero accepting a noble surrender. He is a predator seizing an opportunity. With the speed of the winged sandals, he lunges forward. The adamantine sickle, a tool of divine sharpness, flashes in the moonlight. The famous battle was not a battle at all. It was a hostile, deceptive negotiation, followed by a swift and brutal execution, carried out the moment the target let down her guard. There was no glory, only the cold, quiet efficiency of a contract being fulfilled. The act is done. The sickle, impossibly sharp, does its work with a clean, horrifying finality. Medusa, the artist, the CO, the weapon, the monster, is gone. Perseus, the corporate raider, stands not in triumph, but in the grim satisfaction of a difficult job completed. He wraps the severed head, still potent, still dangerous, in a specially prepared cloth bag. The primary asset has been secured. The rest is just cleanup. The heroic myth, the one that will echo through history, cements itself in this moment. Perseus, the valiant hero, has slain the Gorgon. He has triumphed over monstrous evil, freed the world from a terrible threat, and secured his place in the pantheon of legends. The bards will sing of his courage, of his divine favor, of the climactic battle in the monster's lair. His name will become synonymous with righteous victory. History, as it so often is, will be written by the victors. But you remain in the silent, blood-soaked garden and witness the shocking reality of what happens next. This is not the end of a heroic tale. It is the brutal, systematic erasure of a legacy. The story of Aeternum, the complex, morally grey enterprise run by three ambitious sisters, must be utterly and completely wiped from the record, replaced by the simple, clean narrative of a monster and a hero. Perseus, following the plan laid out by Athena, moves through the Aeternum compound not as a liberator, but as a vandal. He enters the grand showroom, the gallery of Aeternum's finest commissioned works. Here stands the perfect statue of Lyra, the ideal of beauty. Here is the statesman, the athlete, the poet. These are not trophies of a monster. They are the products of a unique and successful business. They are evidence of the truth. And the truth must be destroyed. With a cold, dispassionate fury, Perseus begins his work. He uses the pommel of his sickle to smash the delicate, stone-carved fingers of the reclining courtesan. He topples the statue of the athlete, letting it crash to the marble floor where it shatters into a dozen pieces. He defaces the serene face of the statesman. He is not just breaking statues, he is destroying the company's entire product line, ensuring no one can ever look at these impossible, lifelike works and question the new, official story. He is erasing the brand. Sthino and Uriel, awakened by the noise, are captured. They are not treated as defeated executives of a rival power, but as the vile henchwomen of a monster. They are dragged into the courtyard, forced to watch as Perseus and the king's agents who have now arrived to help secure the site to dismantle their life's work. Uriel, the master of narrative, screams in impotent rage as she watches her beautiful lies being replaced by Perseus's even more effective one. Sthino, the pragmatist, is simply silent, her face a mask of stone, her empire of numbers turned to dust. The most chilling act of erasure happens in Stheno's office. Perseus finds the ledgers, the meticulously kept records of every transaction, every client, every contract. These scrolls and tablets are the business memory, the detailed proof of what Aeternum truly was, a commercial enterprise. They are the single greatest threat to the Gorgon myth. Perseus does not hesitate. He piles them in the center of the room and sets them ablaze. The history of Aeternum, the deals, the marketing strategies, the secret arrangements with the terminally ill, the blackmail notes on rivals, it all curls into smoke and ash. The why of this cultural demolition is absolute. The new myth of Medusa the Gorgon can only survive if all evidence of Medusa the businesswoman is destroyed. The story has to be simple. Good versus evil. Hero versus monster. There can be no room for moral ambiguity, no troubling questions about what Aeternum actually was. To let the truth survive that Medusa was a complicated figure running a service that many people willingly paid for would be to undermine the righteousness of Perseus' actions and the justice of Athena's vengeance. It would complicate the clean lines of the legend. So, the history is rewritten with fire and force. The curated gallery of the lost, Medusa's private garden, is also cleansed. The statues of the boy, the laughing woman, the soldier, these are all broken up and used as rubble to fill in the company's secret vaults. The evidence of her accidents and her executions is buried. The entire physical and administrative structure of the company is wiped from existence. By dawn, the Temple of Aeternum is a ruin. The sisters are sent into exile, as promised, but with nothing but the clothes on their backs, their names now synonymous with monstrosity. The official story, released by agents of King Polydectes and amplified by the priesthood of Athena, spreads through the city like the fire that consumed the ledgers. The Gorgon is dead. The hero Perseus has saved the city. The king's brother, Danaus, was tragically found dead in the lair, a victim of the monster before the hero could save him, a convenient lie that solidifies the king's power and ties up that loose end neatly. You are left standing in the wreckage, a witness to this complete and successful rewriting of history. The complex, morally fraught story of entrepreneurship, family, fear, and ambition has been brutally simplified. It has been flattened into a fairy tale. The story of what if Medusa had been a successful businesswoman is over. In its place is the story of Medusa the monster, a lie so total, so perfectly executed, that it will be mistaken for the truth for thousands of years. The victors have not just written the history, they have burned the archives. Years melt away. The ruin of the Aeternum temple is picked clean by scavengers, its stones repurposed for lesser buildings, its memory fading into the monstrous legend shaped by Athena and Perseus. The story of the businesswoman is gone, a ghost of a whisper. All that remains is the myth of the Gorgon. But what became of the product? What happened to the art, the cold, silent clientele that were the foundation of Medusa's fallen empire? You drift through time, a silent observer of legacy. The heroic illusion is that with the monster slain, her evil works were all destroyed. The world was cleansed of her unnatural creations. The statues, being products of a cursed power, were too dangerous to exist and were ground to dust, their silent screams finally silenced. It's a clean ending, a neat conclusion to the heroic tale. The monster and her works are erased, and the world returns to normal. The shocking reality, however, is that you can't destroy 1,000 tons of high-quality stone statuary so easily. It's just too useful. Perseus' rampage was targeted. He destroyed the evidence in the showroom and the private collections, the pieces that were too closely associated with the Aeternum compound. But what about the statues that had already been delivered? The ones standing in private villas, in family crypts, in public squares all across the Aegean world? These were quietly disconnected from their infamous creator. You find yourself in the grand villa of a wealthy merchant in Corinth, a generation after Medusa's fall. In his central courtyard stands a magnificent statue of a discus thrower, his muscles coiled, his face a mask of concentration. It is the very same statue you once saw in Medusa's showroom, a showpiece of Aeternum's work. The merchant is entertaining guests, showing off his art collection. A magnificent piece. One guest remarks, "The realism is uncanny." Who is the artist? The merchant shrugs, swirling the wine in his cup. "No one knows," he says, a hint of pride in his voice. "It's from the master of the unblinking eye. They call him a mysterious sculptor from a generation ago. His technique was lost to time. A true original." Here is the final, ironic fate of Medusa's work. Her name, now irrevocably linked to monstrosity, was scrubbed from her art. The statues were too beautiful, too valuable to destroy. So the art world did what it always does, it rebranded. The works of Aeternum were attributed to a mysterious, anonymous master sculptor. They became objects of immense artistic prestige, their uncanny realism a subject of scholarly debate and aesthetic admiration for centuries. The cold art that remains has had its chilling origin story carefully edited out. You see it again in a public garden in the Bigs. There stands the statue of Lyra, the woman you saw preserved, her face a mask of melancholy beauty. A plaque at her feet now reads, Ariadne abandoned. Her personal story, her desperate choice to trade life for legacy, has been erased and replaced with a mythological narrative. She is no longer Lyra, the vain socialite. She is now a famous scene from a legend, her expression reinterpreted as the sorrow of being left by the hero Theseus. Her identity, the very thing she sought to preserve, was the first thing to be sacrificed to make the art palatable. The why of this is a simple matter of human psychology and economics. People don't want a monster's work in their home, but they do want a masterpiece. The owners of these statues, the families who had once paid Aeternum a fortune, had a vested interest in rehabilitating their purchases. They couldn't admit they had commissioned a work from the infamous Gorgon. So they helped create the myth of the anonymous master. They fabricated new provenances for their statues, attributing them to forgotten artists or recasting them as depictions of mythological scenes. The art was laundered, its dark history washed clean so its value could be preserved. Medusa, in the ultimate irony, achieved her original sales pitch, just not for herself. She gave her clients immortality. Their images, their perfect, frozen moments, did survive for 1,000 generations. They became lessons in beauty, in power, in art. They stand in the great museums of your own time, admired by millions who see only the stone, not the story. The world marvels at the impossible skill of the unknown artist, never suspecting the biological, terrifying truth of the medium. The art outlived the business, outlived the artist, and outlived the truth. You stand now before one last piece. It is the head of Medusa herself, the one Perseus secured. After its use as a weapon in his subsequent adventures, it too was given to Athena, who mounted it on her shield, the Aegis. It became a symbol of her power, a terrifying emblem to ward off her enemies. The final illusion is that this is a victor's trophy, the head of a vanquished monster. But you see the shocking reality. It is the ultimate act of artistic plagiarism. Athena, the jealous artist, has taken the signature of her greatest rival and placed it upon her own work. She has co-opted the very face of the woman whose artistry she despised and turned it into her own logo. The cold art that remains tells a lie. It speaks of anonymous masters and mythological sorrows. It decorates the shield of the very goddess who destroyed its creator out of professional envy. The legacy of Aeternum was not erased. It was stolen, repurposed, its true meaning locked away forever. And Medusa, the businesswoman, became the most famous monster in history, while her work became the celebrated and misunderstood art of a ghost. And so, my dear friends, our journey into this forgotten history comes to its end. The what-if fades and the myth you know rushes back in to take its place, its loud, simple story drowning out the complex, quiet truth. But perhaps a small piece of this story will linger with you. As your mind begins to drift and soften, as the edges of your day begin to blur, let the frantic energy of this forgotten enterprise begin to slow. The ledgers are closed, the courtyard is still, and the hissing of the snakes fades into a gentle, rhythmic hum, like a distant fan on a warm night. There is no more business to be done, no more deals to be made. There is only the deep, heavy silence of stone and the even deeper peace of one coming sleep. All the striving, the ambition, the fear, and the fury have settled into a profound and lasting calm. There is nothing left to do now but rest, surrounded by the quiet, cool, and dreamless stillness of a gallery at the end of time. Let the silence cradle you. Let the coolness soothe you. Let yourself become as still and as peaceful as stone, and drift away into your own sweet dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.